Hi, welcome to yet another exciting episode on Be Positive series on etbrandequity.com. This is your host, Ambi Parameswaran, welcoming you to this episode. We are truly excited because we have a really super achieving CMO with us. Hi, Rajashree. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ambi. Thank you so much for having me and for those kind words. Thank you so much.
So Rajashree is the global CMO of TCS, India's most valuable company and truly a trailblazer in many ways. So and Rajashree is no less. She is also a trailblazer, and we will get to know about her journey. So just to give a little bit of background to those of you joining us for the first time and to Rajashree, this show is about showcasing high achieving marketing executives to look at their career journey, the challenges they faced, how they stayed positive. That's the whole topic, be positive, and about how they could overcome objections, they could overcome rejections and bounce back stronger. The show is more about the person rather than about the great companies they work for. And we've had people working in fantastic companies, and I'm delighted that we have Rajashree from TCS here. TCS is a company which I hold very dear. In my previous avatar as a head of a large advertising agency, had the opportunity of working on some landmark campaigns for TCS, including when they went public, the IPO campaign, and several campaigns after that. So I'm truly delighted that we have Rajashree with us. Rajashree, of course, is joining us from Chennai. As you know, we are in a global world. So the CMO of India's largest company can be sitting in Chennai and controlling workforces across the world. So that's truly exciting. And she's been with TCS for 17 years. So Rajashree, so it's all about you. So let's start. Tell us a little bit about your early childhood. It was all in Chennai. I noticed that you did your CBSE from Kendriya Vidyalaya. So was it right through in Chennai?
Thanks again, Ambi, for having me. You are such a great icon, and it's really a privilege for me to be talking to you today. Yeah, my childhood was all over India. My father used to work for the military engineering service, so I always proudly say that I studied in 8 schools for 12 classes. So traveled all over.
Tell us the 8 schools. This is always very fascinating to know where all these military kids have studied.
I started in Secunderabad, a school called St. Anne's, which was a very posh, missionary school. From there went to Bihar, which is a place called Ramgarh, which is a Bihar of Bihar actually even today. I was in 2 schools there, and that's when I went into KV. As you all know, most government students, children of government employees go to KV. Then went to Jamnagar in Gujarat, which was again the pre-Reliance Jamnagar, so very different from how it is today. Went to Bombay, Chennai, but in each of these places we also shifted locations, and then finally did my final 2 years of schooling in Chennai. So
was it Kendriya Vidyalaya at IIT?
Yes, Kendriya Vidyalaya IIT Chennai. Yes.
Okay, wow. That's like iconic. A lot of people vicariously say that I went to IIT without saying I went to Kendriya Vidyalaya IIT.
Yes.
And we are okay with that. I mean, we are perfectly okay with that.
Probably one of the most intelligent kids I studied with in my whole life. So all IIT professors' kids.
Yeah. So how was childhood? I mean, how was childhood, moving from city to city, getting a different experience? How was it?
I think, Ambi, I always say this, like my son actually studied in one school, right, from LKG to 12th, right? And I always felt that the experience that I got really prepared me to face unknown, because every time you change school, culturally, the place would be very different. You would not have a friends group, though it was the same CBSE structure, but your entire social system used to be very different. So every time go to a school, establish yourself, build your network, adjust to the culture, right? Can you imagine going from St. Anne's to Ramgarh in Bihar, where they would teach English and Hindi, right? So So it was crazy. And I think I really felt that that experience prepared me for a lot of things in my life. I had a very happy childhood, but prepared me for really, not being scared of unknown, not have social anxiety when you go to a new environment. So I feel kids today, especially who study in one school, probably miss the kind of experience I had. So I really cherish that experience.
So Rajashree, since you were saying that your son has studied in the same school from K to 12 in Chennai, which school was it? This is more idle gossip.
It's Bala Vidya Mandir in Chennai.
Okay. Oh, Bala Vidya Mandir. Okay, that's the trustee is my friend Ramana Prasad, who's also a Kendriya Vidyalaya product and an IIT Madras product. Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay, good. So because I am from the original Vidya Mandir, Mylapur. Yeah, Mylapur Vidya. Okay, great. So it's amazing that you traveled across Secunderabad to Bihar, to Gujarat, to Chennai, and then what happened at KV? How did you then decide to go to IRMA? Was it a love for Gujaratis?
No, I mean, I don't know how to answer that question, because not a lot of things in my life is really planned. I actually kind of tend to go with the flow. I initially went to NDRA, which is where I did my engineering in food technology. As any South Indian, you first do engineering and then you're asked what you want to do in your life, right? So obviously I didn't want to do computer science, which is ironical based on where I am today. But and then, if you do mechanical, electrical, then, it was hard for women to get jobs in those.
How did you get into dairy technology? Was it because there's someone in the family?
No. It's a standard engineering course. It's a course where you basically learn about food processing, and you start to work in companies like Glaxo and Nestle and Amul and companies like that. And I did that, and I had a very good time. This was in a place called Karnal in Haryana, again, another completely different place. And post that, aspired to go to B school, didn't study at all to prepare for CAT. I thought I'll take a break in my life and kind of, study next year. But I got through IRMA, which was at that time just immediately below IIMs in terms of, where they were positioned. And I said, okay, let me not take the break and let me join IRMA. So that's how I got into IRMA. And because of my food technology legacy, going to IRMA made a lot of sense as well, because of its affiliation with Amul and NDDB and all of that stuff.
So I know that IRMA was actually Dr. Kurian's vision to create a business school which will not generate these so-called capitalist MBAs, but MBAs with a stronger social orientation. And I remember those days, I'm not sure that they still have it, that anyone graduating from IRMA had to spend 2 years in the cooperative sector or something like that. Did they have that?
No, the rule didn't exist. So we were actually free to go out and look for jobs. But I distinctly remember when he came and spoke to us, and I was fortunate that I studied there when he was still the chairman of IRMA. So when we joined new, he would always come and address all the new students. And if you know Dr. Kurian, he was this very larger than life character. And he said, look, you guys are not here to learn how to sell soaps. And you know what that reference was. And he said, you are here because I think, and he basically said that when you leave the world, you should have made this world a better place. And that has to be your objective. And your objective is not to sell more soaps. And that's how he presented IRMA to us. Very dynamic leader, very dynamic chairman. But of course, after I passed out, I went the standard marketing route. So
I think it's really fortunate that, my old agency used to work with Amul, and they still do work with Amul. And I know a lot of colleagues who had close interaction with Dr. Green. I've only met him once, but I know people who have, used to deal with him regularly, and they always talk about his humility. And it's a combination of humility and pride, a rare combination. And of course, his rather loathing of the multinationals. So to that extent, I think you've been true to Kurian, because you didn't join a multinational to sell soap or sell computers or whatever. So after IRMA, was it what? You went to Ramco?
Yeah, I actually went to a company called Beauty Cosmetics. You would know Mr. C.K. Ranganathan.
Okay, CKR. Okay.
Yeah, so I did a very typical brand management role. We launched two brands. I was called assistant product manager or assistant brand manager. We launched two brands. One was Spins, which was a perfume brand, and other was Fair which was a competitive brand to Fair and Lovely. I stayed there for a short time, and that's where I learned all the basics of brand management and product marketing and seeing ORG reports and all of that stuff, right? And after that, retail was really coming up in India, and the first retail company which actually came up, the first formal retail company was the RPG Group, which invested in two formats, the supermarket and the health and beauty format. And I actually got a call through a person I knew, and they said, "Look, this is a new thing which is starting, and maybe you should try it out." So I joined as head of marketing for Health and Glow, which was a health and beauty brand. And if you know Health and Glow, I did everything from setting up the brand. I mean, even now when I see that logo or see that brand, I get goosebumps because that was something I created right from the start.
So I remember, I mean, when I set up, I set up Ulka in Chennai, and one of my early clients was Pradipto Mahapatra, who you would have met, and I still hold him as a dear friend and a mentor. We lost him years ago at a very young age. Did you get to work with Pradipto? Did you get to work with Dashrath Raman? I think Dash was there, right?
All of these people. So we all sat on the same floor in Spencer Plaza in Chennai, a beautiful office to work off. I knew him very, very well. In fact, I used to meet him a lot in the Chennai-Mumbai flights. And as you know, he started the Chennai Business School where I had some association as well. Yes.
So you spent how many years in retail?
I was there for nearly 4-5 years, so pretty long time. That was for me a very formative experience because retail marketing as a discipline was very, very new in India, right? I mean, I remember showing agencies ads of our partners in Singapore, Hong Kong, who we were partnering. I said, this is how retail ads are done, right? So those, if you see retail ads, they're like hard selling, right? 50% off, buy two, get one free, which now is very common to us. But in those days, brands never advertised like that, right? So I had to tell them that retail ads are not these soft stories and all the glamour, it's hard selling. So it was very interesting. I really enjoyed that stint.
Raghu was also there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Raghu was our CEO. Yeah,
Raghu was there. So from retail, you moved to IT.
Yeah, because in Chennai, you couldn't have a brand career, Ambi, you know that. There were very few companies which were left in Chennai for me to work. That was when IT was picking up and you had to bite the IT bullet if you had to survive in Chennai, which is my hometown. And at that time, actually, TCS was going through a very interesting evolution where we started to hire a lot of people, and we used to call them domain consultants. So we started to hire a lot of people from the industry, people from financial services, retail, manufacturing, and so on. So that's how I joined TCS. I joined as a retail consultant.
So from Spencer's.
Yes, Ramco was just for a year in between, but that was a very short stint. But I mean, the real shift was from Spencer's from my retail career to my firm TCS. So that was a very interesting move. But I joined as a retail consultant. I was somebody who had never seen a piece of code in my life. I was a hardcore marketer till that point in time, and it was a very interesting shift into TCS. And then I've of course been here now for nearly 18 years.
Oh yeah, so you have a pre-TCS era, which was purely marketing, which is Cabin Care and Health and Glow and Food World or whatever, the whole bunch of brands were there. So you remember anything from those days which you tried doing which failed, and you got shoe beatings from Pradipto or Raghu or from Dashrath Raman?
Ambi, I'll tell you this. I had a boss, Mr. Jayant Ambast, who was the general manager.
Jayant was there. Yeah, I know Jayant.
Yeah, you know Jayant, right? He taught me how to write a client brief. In those days, we didn't have emails. So we used to write on a word processor, take printouts, go to somebody's room, right? The first time I wrote a client brief, he made me write like some 7, 10 times. I hope he watches this.
We'll tag
I
him.
think
We
that
will tag. We will tag. Where is Jayant now? I've lost touch.
he is in Delhi. He's
Delhi.
retired. He's in Delhi. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think for me, that learning, I think, has stayed with me for my entire life, right? Even today, when I see client briefs, what I learned from him in terms of how do you write a high quality client brief was, I think, for me, that was my biggest learning. I really valued that. I remember when we gave that brief to our agency at that point, they said they had never seen this high quality client brief in ever. So I remember that, Ambi. I really felt I learned the basics of marketing in that stint. Jayant was a career marketer, so he taught me a lot of fundamentals, a lot of things about marketing, which I think has stayed with me through my career. So I think it was very foundational years for me in my life.
I remember Jayant was with Cadbury
Yes.
when I was a young account executive handling the Cadbury account, and he and Vinita Bali used to sit on adjoining tables. I still remember.
And he went to Van Mille after that, Perfetti Van Mille after.
Went there. Okay. So I know that, when you work in a company like Cadbury, you do get trained on all the basics of, how to write a brief. And I remember we have had one or two other guests on the show where, writing the brief is really the first thing which a brand manager has to learn.
Exactly.
And what you're saying is great that, the agency looks at the brief and says, wow, you've never seen a brief like this, but they don't know that you went through something like 7 or 8 rounds of it, right?
I don't remember how many, but I know there were lots. There were lots of time I went back and forth, taking a new piece of paper, and he would like cut like a school teacher, and then I would go back again and come back. So I remember that distinctly, and I feel that was my greatest learning.
Very good, very good. So and then you then joined TCS, and then of course TCS had this domain, what we call industry verticals and domain verticals. And I remember at that time you had that matrix structure. There was someone heading banking, someone else heading retail, someone heading healthcare, someone heading government, and then I think we had the horizontal one was whatever.
So that was the structure that I walked into, and I was part of the retail vertical structure. Within a year or a couple of years after I joined, I actually became the retail practice head for TCS, I think in 2008, and really built retail as a vertical for the company. And that's where my global experience really happened, Ambi. I mean, there is no retailer I have not visited. There is no retail problem I have not tried to solve. So the whole exposure to global retail, which is actually, at least at that point, was very, very different from how Indian retail was done. The maturity levels were very different. Scale was very different. And of course, learned technology, which I have resisted computers right from my school days, And I should tell you this, Ambi, I got Vidya Mandir Comp Science, and I told my father I'm not going to do Comp Science. So I've resisted computer till that point, but then I got into a system where unless you put some server diagrams on the page, people are not happy. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, sort of getting to know technology, understanding technology. I built out products in retail. I actually built a product in AI, artificial intelligence. I learned AI. I got patents in AI. So I sort of completely geeked out, I think, for about 15 years. And absolutely enjoyed that experience. I think technology is a big transformative force, and I really learned what it was and how some of these companies like Walmart's and Home Depot.
Tell us, without revealing any confidential stuff, it'll be good for people who are watching this show because TCS is truly amazing. You work sitting in India, you work with the best of best companies, and they trust you with a lot of data, trust you with what you do. So can you tell us something about one or two projects which you worked on, which were path-breaking or very successful, and maybe one or two which you thought failed? And what lessons did you learn from there?
Yeah, I mean, of course, a lot of things don't work out as we want it to be, right? So what we did was a few years ago, we created this whole notion called algo retail. And algo retail was a notion, right? For every company which is in brick and mortar retail, their competition is Amazon, right? Where you talk to a healthcare company, you talk to a food retailer, you talk to an apparel retailer, electronic, everybody is competing with Amazon, right? Amazon is a company which is essentially a technology company. It's not a brick and mortar retailer. They're a technology company, and it's a company which is run with algorithms, right? So we had this pitch that we used to tell our clients that if you really want to compete with Amazon, you have to adopt algorithms and you have to be machine led, right? You can't expect humans to fight against machine. And we used to have a very nice picture of a human and a machine sort of trying to fight with each other. So the last 5 years of my career were largely spent in helping retailers across the world to adopt algorithms and data and AI and machine learning and all those cool words, right? So I'll give you a couple of examples without revealing names. So for one of the retailers, we launched what's called autonomous pricing. So basically today when retailers do pricing, there are people who are sitting and analyzing and looking at margins and competitive data and all of that stuff, right? But some of the companies like Amazon completely don't have any humans. I mean, probably don't have any humans. I don't know the fact, but they probably have algorithms running. So for one of the retailers, we actually converted their entire pricing to autonomous pricing. We were pricing more than 3-4 million SKUs on a daily basis with one person team. So it's basically like those a little bit of those future Matrix kind of movie scene where essentially algorithms would do all the analysis and push out prices autonomously into the system. So
this is for a brick and mortar. This was a brick and mortar store, or was it for a
both?
For a...
So it was a retailer which had a brick and mortar business and an online business, and we were completely doing the pricing for them using algorithms autonomously. So that's a great example. We used some really advanced techniques like reinforcement learning, which, as you know, is used in gaming. To look at forecasting, replenishment. So another very key thing we did was we developed a what we call a universal commerce platform, which is a point of sale, but you have one cart, right? So today when you go to a store versus you go online, you don't have a single cart, right? You've seen something online, you put it in your cart. When you walk into the store of the same retailer, that experience is completely disjoint. So we created this concept of a universal cart for one of the customers. So I can talk about this for hours. We should probably have another chat.
Tell us something which failed. Tell us something which failed without telling us who, but something which you thought will work, but actually did not work.
What we always found was that anything that required large-scale transformation at a store did not succeed. So, for example, we've been talking forever about future stores, the use of robos in stores, the use of drones, we did, I wouldn't say it failed, but we did a lot of pilots around that area, but it didn't really scale. You found one or two fancy stores where some of these technologies were implemented, but you still don't see stores which have robots and drones flying inside the store. So some of those experiments didn't really work as much as we thought it would work. So I think that's probably an area which requires a little bit more work to happen in the industry. But we did many pilots and it didn't really.
So I was also thinking this algorithm-based pricing. Now, if you have so many thousand SKUs in a supermarket, and each SKU has a price marked on it, right? How are you going to go and change it?
So there was this whole science about having a calendar, which price changes happen every day, the concept of emergency prices, the concept of staple pricing. So what are the top? So Ambi, what we always talk about in retail, especially in global retail, is a consumer always remembers the price of a few products, right? Mm-hmm. If you compare two grocery stores, let's take in the Indian context, what are the products you remember? You remember rice, you remember oil, you remember potato, you remember onion. These are the 5-6 products which customer always uses as a sort of benchmark to evaluate which store is expensive or cheap, right? So those 100 products have to be very smartly priced, and you might have to price it intraday changes as well for those products. Many other products, people don't remember prices. So there's a very smart mechanism on how do you manage it, how do you manage the workforce. There's a whole science behind it.
I remember we worked on, I think, the Star Bazaar account for a few years. And it was in India, it is really the price of sugar.
Sugar, yeah.
And the other crazy thing is, I don't know what Indians do with the sugar, but the offer which works best is 1 kg of sugar free for every
10 kilos of rice.
100 rupees of purchase or some crap like that, and God knows what they do with that sugar, but they all go for this.
Yes.
The other thing which, of course, some of the young people watching here would have come across the Tesco case, right? The whole Tesco card and the Dunnhumby, book on customer database management. Tesco did a great job.
Yeah.
The club card and managing for understanding what the customer. But all retailers have not done that, right? They, a brick and mortar retailer still doesn't know when someone comes into the store, who's coming in, what was his or her previous purchase. So is that happening now? Are our stores now recognizing when Rajashree is walking in? They know, they get a message saying, "Hi Rajashree, welcome back, and you wanted these so-called organic potatoes, and we have it ready now for you," or something like that. Are brick and mortar retailers kind of getting this act together, that they recognize when someone walks in? And then
that's definitely one area where things didn't work out. You asked me earlier which projects didn't work out. That's definitely an area where things didn't really scale, mainly because of a lot of privacy issues as well, right? So, technologies which were used to, I mean, you couldn't identify the face, you couldn't recognize them, right? So a lot of those technologies also failed. I mean, the technology could do it, but because of privacy concerns, because of all of security concerns and all of that, a lot of them didn't work. But this concept of universal cart, Ambi, which I talked to you about, that is a very powerful concept, right? Because you're basically treating the customer as a single checkout customer or a single cart customer, and we use the word called the ubiquitous cart. So if I've done something online, how can that history be carried through when I come into the store? And I identify myself. I could identify myself at the checkout. I could identify myself at the customer service desk or to the staff. That is actually possibly the way by which this problem can be solved. And some people have done it, especially people in electronics, people in sporting goods. So places like that where the shopping experience starts from a distinct online search experience or exploratory experience, and then comes into the store, as opposed to buying atta dal, which you don't really go online to Google and then come to the store. Especially in categories like this concept of a ubiquitous card is very, very, very powerful. And that's possibly the way it will go. I mean, of course, COVID has changed a lot of things, but that's probably the way it will go in the future.
The other thing, of course, is that a lot of times especially electronics, the customer who's walking in knows a lot more than the shop assistant.
Yes. Absolutely.
And therefore, if the store can actually provide digital help to the customer walking in,
yes,
I can, whatever the equipment, I can hold my smartphone and it tells me what it does. So this whole idea of design thinking, right, get the customer to do a lot of work for you, is something
it's like airlines, Ambi. So now airline is asking you to do everything, right? You check in, you put the luggages, you put the tag on the luggage. Everything they've shifted to you, right? So retail is also going that way.
Exactly. Retail will go there. I mean, because customers saying, why should I stand in the queue for so long?
Yeah.
So you swipe the stuff and you put it in your bag and you swipe it and you take it and go, so that's happening. And that's, so will retail change dramatically post-COVID, or will we be back to the old a mixture of brick and mortar and
retail as an industry has been under pressure for a long time, right? Because the first industry that got disrupted with the digital was actually retail. So, but it's an industry which has actually done pretty well in the COVID time, because, everybody still need their bread and eggs and milk, right? Or atta dal. So it is an industry. We did a survey, Ambi, in TCS about a year back, and the survey told us that retail was the industry with the highest digital penetration among all the other industries in the world. So the ability for retail to react to the COVID and the pandemic was actually the highest, because they had the online systems in place, they had the app, they had the delivery mechanism and so on. So it actually, in my view, responded extremely well. But I do feel that there is a big revolution which is coming up, because post COVID, what's going to happen? Like, if you look at my personal case, I haven't stepped into a grocery store for the last 1.5 years, and I'm thinking right now whether on a Sunday morning after a busy week, is that how I want to spend my Sunday, by going and buying grocery? The answer is possibly no, right? So then what will take me to a store, I think, is a very important question that retailers have to answer. So there is a room for a lot of disruption and innovation right now in retail.
Yeah, so I think even in the past there was this whole talk about shoppertainment, and
Yes.
shopping has to be enjoyable, etc., etc. So if you remember, go back to your early days in retail. That time for the Indian consumer, it was a joy to walk into a supermarket.
Exactly.
You take your kid, the kid is running around, and you look at this, you look at that, you spend an hour literally buying atta dal. You could have finished it in 5 minutes, but you're walking around, picking up stuff. I don't know whether that still will continue.
Yeah.
May not continue. So we're going to see some significant shifts. The other thing, of course, is that, what is the cost of delivery?
Yeah.
There is a cost of delivery, which a lot of direct to consumer brands are subsidizing it, giving it to customer virtually free. So that's going to change.
Yeah.
So retail is going to be dramatically, one of my favorite stores in the world used to be the Borders bookshop at Michigan Avenue in Chicago. Our FCD offices across the road, and when I used to go for my meetings, and I used to spend, and they used to be quite funnily open till I think 11 in the night. So
because people used to work there, people used to hang out there. There was a coffee shop inside.
One used to go and spend after the meeting is over, after dinner is over, land up there, spend 2-3 hours, going through books, and they had that went kaput, right? I mean, now that's become a Uniqlo store.
It's coming back now, Ambi. A lot of that, the romantic bookstores that we all, I think a lot of those experiences will come back, and the smell of a book and the feel of a book. I think we are going to crave for some of those, I would say, physical experience or sensorial experiences back. So I feel some of it will come back. Of course, these companies will have to innovate on how that experience is going to look like. They can't just take what worked in the past and put it. But I feel a lot of it will come back. Hopefully.
So do you think revenge shopping will come back with a bang next year?
I'll do it. I don't know about others. I'm waiting to go to a mall. I'm waiting to go and shop. I think it will happen. I definitely feel, especially for non-food categories, I feel that a lot of revenge. I mean, I don't know if you want to call it revenge shopping, but I think we will crave for experiences in our life in general, whether it's travel or holiday or shopping or going to a restaurant, right? So we want to crave for all those experiences back, hopefully.
So in the last 17 years you've spent with TCS, you must have had the opportunity to work with some truly remarkable mentors. So can you tell us something about some mentors you had, and what they, you told about how Jayant Ambas made you write the brief 15 times. So tell us something about something which may have happened in TCS. Someone may have made you do something 10 times or 20 times.
TCS has been, I think it's a company with great leaders. We are really fortunate. I mean, I remember the first day I walked into TCS, I felt I had come home, and it's very strange that I felt that way. But it's a company with great leaders, not just people who have directly reported to, but also a lot of colleagues. I worked with a gentleman called Prateek, who is now the CEO of Tata Digital for that 15 years. So he was a great mentor to me. And of course, a lot of other colleagues that I interacted with. Of course, I'm now working with our CEO, Rajesh, who's a great leader. Loves marketing and branding, which is very nice for me. So really great leaders. And of course, we've seen leaders like Chandra from afar. We've seen Mr. Ramadurai, we've seen FC Kohli. These are like iconic leaders, not just of TCS, but of our industry. And just watching them has been an amazing experience. I mean, I've seen Mr. Kohli and how he was, and his ambition and his energy at the age. I mean, I met him when he was nearly 90, and he could match us for his energy, right? So, I mean, these are all extremely iconic leaders, and I've been very fortunate just to be in the same room with them, I would say. So, very, very.
I think truly, I mean, TCS, right from the days of Mr. Kohli to Ram, Mr. Ramadurai, and then to Chandra, and then now to Rajesh, has been a unique case of great succession planning, great transition. We are coming to the last bit. A few quick rapid fire questions. So let me ask you, since you're from Chennai and good Tambram upbringing, which is your favorite Carnatic music raga?
Oh, I don't watch Carnatic music, which is very strange for me. But I like O.S. Arun as a singer. So he's probably somebody whose concert I go to.
Okay.
And I like all the bhajans he does. So I'm not a big Carnatic music listener. I'm more rock and pop. Ambi, you can ask me questions on rock and I'll answer that.
So tell us a quick fire question. Whom did we lose? The world of rock lost someone last week.
Yeah, the drummer from
Charlie Watts. Charlie Watts passed away last week. As a drummer of Rolling Stone.
Rolling Stones, yeah.
And I had the fortune of watching the Rolling Stone concert in Mumbai some years ago. It was, I think, the 40 Lick Store. It was at Brabant Stadium. Amazing concert. And I think Charlie Watts was at the drums.
Yeah.
So let's go to movies, OTT series, books. Some favorites. What are you reading now? What are you watching?
Okay, so I'm a little bit different in terms of what I watch. For me, music is my first love. So I watch a lot of music. In fact, this whole pandemic for me has been about rediscovering my love for music. And I've spent a lot of time just watching shows, watching live shows, that's been one. The second very interesting thing I've picked up is actually watching a lot of stand-ups. And the reason I say that, Ambi, is as a person interested in communication, I feel that the stand-ups are the most toughest jobs, right? Yeah. If you look at any other form of communication, there are props, there is music, there's a band, there is a backdrop. A comedian is alone and a person with his words, right? So I've been fascinated by how great these communicators are, and I'm just hooked to a lot of comedians, late night show hosts like Conan and Michael McIntyre. So I'm absolutely binging on that. And I thought we need some more laughter in our life right now. So I'm not watching serious stuff at all.
Are you a Jerry Seinfeld fan?
I like Jerry Seinfeld as well. Yes, I do watch Jerry Seinfeld.
So we've binge watched Seinfeld series, and some of the words have become kind of catchphrases, like the Nazi, the soup Nazi, etc. So
I mean, this week actually I've been watching Faulty Towers, if you remember that.
Very old, yeah. Faulty Towers, very old, yeah.
Yeah, but it's really good. I mean, I've been just like, there are just 12 episodes of it, and it's really funny. So I've been just watching Faulty Towers the whole week.
And music, you said you watch some shows.
Yeah, I've watched shows, but not as many as I would like to. So it's really, I mean, everybody who works with me knows that that's on my bucket list. So I have a post-pandemic bucket list of shows I want to go to, and that's a big list. So I'm really hoping that live shows are back, and we can watch some of these great artists perform. So
yeah, I think at least we have had a few shows in India of these top artists, whether
U2,
I mean, Rolling Stone or Jethro Tull.
Very few,
very few. And I think this guy, Pink Floyd, Roger Waters was a very, very good show we had some years ago. And then we've had some very good jazz artists coming in.
Yeah.
Joe Zawinul has played. I don't know whether you're into jazz, but...
No, I'm more rock and pop, I think.
Yeah, so of course, Michael Jackson has performed in Bombay.
Yes.
So, and if your job takes you all over the world, you can watch all these shows. Are you planning to attend the Avatar show in, I think in London, right? The ABBA avatars are going to be performing.
I have a list, Ambi. I'll show you the list offline, but I have a long list. I don't want to reveal my secrets as to why I need to go to a specific place on a specific date on a public call, but I have a list. And of course, we have to first get out of our houses, go to the office, leave the country. I mean, there's so many steps before we can.
Yeah. So I think we were in Ireland a few years ago and we discovered there was a show which, amazing. What was it? Yeah, I forget. And all of us landed up and the whole auditorium was full of 60 plus people. All of us ticking off one more item in our bucket list.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. So good. So coming to the audience of this, young marketing professionals, students will be watching this. So what advice as a seasoned CMO of a very large global company, what advice would you like to give them? If at all they're willing to take advice. I mean, that itself is a question mark, but we don't care. We give advice, right?
I have a 19-year-old at home. I know how that feels. So I think basic stuff, Ambi, I think what I feel has happened is that we have become too enamored by, things like viral and TikTok and channels and all of that stuff. And we've somehow, I don't think we've lost it, but I feel that we need to stay very focused on what we learned in those days, the Kotler 4 Ps of marketing, or the fundamentals of what a message is, who is an audience, and what is the channel, right? So I often hear things like, we should make a viral video, but why do we have to make a viral video? Who is the audience? What message are we telling? So I think I feel that it's very important to stay close to fundamentals, right? So I'm recruiting big time right now, and when I hire marketeers, they say I'm a digital marketeer, I'm a social media marketeer, and I feel that we have to, I wouldn't say go back to basics, but in my view, a good marketeer is who understands her or his audience, who understands what is the message that we want to give, and can find the smartest and the most creative ways to communicate that message effectively, right? So I feel marketing is very simple in that way. And I feel that the more true you are to that, I mean, I get still proposals, people come and say, we need to do this. And I'm like, okay, what are you trying to say? And who are you trying to say this to? And that's where the presentation ends. So I feel, I mean, I don't know if I'm sounding old, but I feel like, I think the fundamentals of the message, the audience, the method of messaging we have to be very true to that, in my opinion.
No, I think you can't put it better because, today, I think as an ad agency guy, some years ago, when a client comes and says, give us a viral video, first you have to tell him, I can give you a video. Whether it becomes a viral hit or not is not in my hands. You can never guess what will go viral. And just because something went viral, don't think everything done by that brand has gone viral.
Exactly.
But just because, Red Bull's, that Baumgartner's jump went viral, Red Bull probably had 20 duds, before they had one hit. And do you have the, so the question is, Mr. Client, do you have the stomach to take 20 flops before you have a hit? So I think what you said is perfectly true, which is, just because the consumer is not going to read the newspaper or watch a TV and is going to consume your ad on a digital platform or on a smartphone, doesn't mean you need to throw out all that you learned, which is the focus on who's your target customer, what motivates the customer, what will move the customer, and how can you engage with the customer. And so that's good advice. And good to know that TCS is hiring. I think you do need to hire good, smart people. And I think that advice, Rajashree, was very, very good. So thank you very much. And let me just say that on behalf of all the viewers and the team here at ET Brand Equity, Be Positive Show, we should thank Rajashree for sparing us the time and her knowledge and her understanding, her career, her schooling, Kendriya Vidyalaya spread across so many cities of India, then to doing BTech in dairy technology, to an MBA from IRMA, and then starting a career in FMCG, moving to retail, and then finding her true calling in tech. That too, starting with retail tech and then getting on to tech. So, you tried avoiding computers, but then computers came coming to you.
Yes.
Coming to you. Now you started coding, you started using algorithms, you started doing everything. So that's a great lesson. So people who are watching this should be ready, like Rajashree, to accept what the world throws at you, and then run with the ball, and then you can build a great career going forward. So thank you, Rajashree, for
thank you so much
joining us. And any last word?
Thanks a lot, Ambi. I mean, you, again, as I said at the beginning, you've been such an icon for all of us. When we were coming out of college, we used to talk about you. So thank you so much. I'm delighted to talk to you, and I hope we stay in touch even outside of it. And I love to have a cup of coffee whenever that's possible, and pick your brains on how I can make TCS one of the best brands to come out of India. So I would love to have a chat with you sometime. And thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, thank you, Rajashree, for joining us. Yeah, of course, TCS is a brand close to my heart. Look forward to talking to you. And on behalf of Rajashree and the team here, this is Ambi Parameswaran signing off on yet another show of Be Positive on etbrandequity.com. Thank you very much for watching, and stay safe, stay healthy.